How's it going, guys? It's Adam here, and today we're going to be talking about the iPad Air 2. This was an iPad released back in 2014, and it's kind of an interesting tablet. I think one of the most notable reasons is because it has sort of a special chip that no other Apple product has. But we're going to be going over all that in this review, so let's get started. The top of the iPad, we got a power button as well as a headphone jack, something a lot of new iPads do not have. We also have the Apple logo, as well as the word iPad at the bottom. We've got a volume up and a volume down button on one side. On the bottom, we got our dual speaker grills as well as a lightning connector. We also got an 8 megapixel camera on the back as well as a microphone. So what is my opinion on this design? Honestly, I really like it. It's extremely thin, as you can see right here. And honestly, it's pretty lightweight. No complaints with this design. This iPad has a 9.7-inch display that is a resolution of 1536 by 2048, and the PPI is 264. So what does that all mean? Well, what that high resolution means is that basically there is no viewable pixels, even if you're looking very up close. The display is somewhat bright. You get about 300 to 400 nits of brightness, which is going to be okay for indoors, but it is definitely going to struggle outdoors. This does, though, have very good viewing angles. I think one of the biggest differences you're going to notice is definitely the bezels. They're very kind of thick bezels, and they're not like the newer iPads. It definitely sort of feels cheap now in 2024. But the display quality itself is good. However, another thing is that there is no 120 or 90 hertz. However, looking for other tablets in this price range, there is nothing that would be 90 or 120 hertz, so it's kind of expected. And for the price, you're honestly not going to get anything better in terms of the display. So overall, not too many complaints about the display besides the few that are mentioned. So this iPad has the Apple A8X chip, as well as 2 gigabytes of RAM. This is sort of interesting because no other iPad has this A8X chip. And the A8 chip, which is basically the downgraded version of this, is only supported up to, I believe, iOS 12. However, this iPad is supported all the way up to iOS 15. Anyways, we are going to be testing some games on this iPad, and let me know what you think, and I'm going to give my own thoughts after. So based on that A8X chip and 2 gigabytes RAM, The performance in 2024 is just okay. Now, based on the price, it's alright, but there are significant issues with this iPad in terms of not just gaming performance, but also day-to-day. For starters, one of the biggest issues with this iPad is just day-to-day tasks, such as web browsing, opening the camera. Basically any easy app will still struggle to load. And this also includes stuff like switching tabs on Safari and things like that, and having multiple tabs open. It's gonna be definitely difficult to do that. Also, in terms of gaming performance, you also saw that basically everything had to be put down on the lowest settings, and there were a lot of frame drops on more intensive games. It's really just alright, but the biggest issue is also just that none of the apps are soon going to be supported. This is stopping on iOS 15, it already has, and it's not really going to get any more updates, and that means that apps are going to stop supporting this version of the software. So if you're thinking of keeping this long term, it might not be the best idea, because this might not last too long. Another thing to note, when you do try to launch the games, it will take a significant amount of time to load. There were plenty of times where it took about 3 to 5 minutes to load a game. So overall, even if you're not a heavy user, the performance is definitely kind of rough. And it does make sense because it is released in 2014, but we're talking about if this can basically survive 2024. Overall, the performance is definitely a downside of the iPad Air 2. We have an 8 megapixel camera on the back and a 1.2 megapixel camera on the front. The main camera can record 1080p and 30 FPS, while the selfie camera can record 720p at 30 FPS. I've had this iPad for more than a year and a half, and let me know what you guys think of the camera samples I've taken throughout those years. This is a video test with the iPad Air 2. Let's try to focus on something right here. Not the best autofocus, that's for sure. And so much grain. I mean, I'm taking this at night, but it's not too bad of lighting, and it's not looking too good. This is a test with the 1.2 megapixel camera on the front, and I gotta say, it does not look good. Doesn't look good, nor does the back camera. Doesn't look good. I mean, even during the day, it's not great. Yeah, overall, I'm not even gonna say much. I'm just gonna move on to the next section. So, but you could see for yourself, it's not good. But moving on to the next section. Before I talk about my verdict of this iPad, I do want to mention the battery. The battery, especially over time, is about the same as the iPad 10th generation, which means it's just okay. If you push it a lot, then it won't do too well, but if you're just using it for some basic apps and games, then I guess it's gonna be okay. And what I mean by okay is about 4 to 5 hours of screen on time. So talking about the final verdict and what I think of this iPad and whether you should buy it in 2024, I gotta say the price. So the price for this is now going for about 80 bucks. And so for this, it's actually not a terrible deal. Yes, the performance isn't great, and there's some other things that are definitely a bit concerning, like old software and pretty poor cameras though. Who really uses the cameras on an iPad? But I will say, if you do want to splurge a little bit, I would definitely recommend like an iPad 9th or 10th generation. It'll definitely save you money in the long term. But I will say, for the short term, the iPad Air 2 is not a terrible deal if you can find it for $80 or less. I would say if you find it for $100 or more, you probably shouldn't buy it. So overall, my feelings on this are kind of mixed. But yeah, let me know what you guys think, and are you considering buying an iPad 2? Make sure to subscribe, make sure to like the video, and I'll see you guys in the next one.